Welcome back to the channel. Now we've got a brilliant live match here for you from Weston pools. It was filmed on the 22nd of February and it's a bit tricky. It wasn't like we thought it was going to be. Literally that week it warmed up to sort of like 13, 14, 15 degrees, nice and warm, and I naturally thought the fish would be on the feed. The match got won with a really big weight the day before, but as you'll see in this video, it didn't all go to plan, but we learned a few things and we caught a load of fish along the way. So hope you enjoy the video and let's get stuck into it. Right, welcome everyone to Weston Pools. Now we're fishing a live match today and we've drawn, I'll spin you around, we've drawn peg 6 on Stretton. So it seems to be every time I do a live match on this is always end up on this peg, but I've kept it dead simple today. The weather's warmed up a little bit the past 2 days. It's got a little bit warmer. Christian won the Open yesterday on Canal with 145 pounds. So the last match I filmed was on Belvedere where it was quite cold. We were tapping a bit of bait in. Today's going to be a little bit different. I've actually got some pellets done. Some pellets made up there. I've got some maggots for loose feeding. I've got a bit of crush expander, but I don't expect to use that. Now I've set up next to nothing. I've set up a cross rig on pellets, 4x16 F1 pellet, and I've set up a maggot rig for 30 metres. That's any lines I've set up. I've set up a dobbin rig as well and a shallow rig. So we've got a couple of shallow rigs, a dobbin rig, and on the bottom rig, and a pellet rig for a cross. So what we're going to do is just go run through the match, see how we get on, see why we catch, and just explain a few bits. But yeah, we've drawn 6 on Stretton, so looking forward to it. There's a bit of a gap up there, but I don't know, it's a good little area. You can get some bites here, there's some carp as well. That's why I've got to have a go dobbing. But other than that, I think hopefully we can get a few bites for cross on pellets and then catch some for loose feeding maggots. So it's probably like 5 minutes. I chuck me last net in because I think we're going to need more than one today. Chuck the last one in and get stuck into it. Right, so what I'm going to do to start with, just going to feed and get my eye in on that maggot line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to feed my maggot line just in line with that old tree stump, so I rattle a few maggots in. Now because it's a little bit warmer today, I expect to catch loose feeding a bit better. So what I want to do is get my eye in now, just have a little practice loose feed so I know a little area I'm going to be loose feeding on. I can always cut it back if I need to, but that's the difference between the last match we had and the one today. Is the last match we had, where's that rig? Is we had a bit trying to concentrate then, I couldn't speak. So what I'm going to do is I've just got a little dobbin rig set up. I'm going to whip on 2 maggots. I did catch them bread last week, but I just like maggots for some banal reason. I'm going to have to put my long free in. It's a problem when it's a bit wider than you think. So the little plan is, because pellets are quite instant, I don't feel like I need to prime that line across. I'm just going to see, I'm going to have a little dob just in case I catch a couple of, there is some resident carp here, so flick that over. So what I'm thinking is I've fed my line 30 metres, just got that ticking over, and then I'm going to have a little dob, but because you can see it's quite bright today, I might be able to, and the weather's and water temperature rising a little bit, it might be a little bit better for pellet fishing. So I'm not going to leave it too long. Don't want to spend ages trying to dob fish that might not be there. Now, there used to be all brambles and stuff hanging in the water, so I think that was one important thing where I think with the fish, they used to sort of linger in the area because of the cover, but it's been tidied up, so it looks a lot nicer. Obviously, they lose them hidey holes, so I'm not going to dob too much and think waste time. So I could have done with a bit longer rig really, but see, Alan next to me has just dobbed something, but I think it's a little stocky. So what I'm going to do is keep flicking it round just for, give it 20 minutes or so. And keep that line primed for maggots as well. What you find down this arm is, yes, there can be an odd carp, but, sorry, there's a lot of smaller fish about. So what I mean by that is a lot of smaller F1s, there's some big ones, and that's what Alan's caught there. So I'm thinking, the last thing I want to do is try and dob them, because the idea of dobbing is just a quick burst of fish, quick flicking your bait. If they're in your peg, you'll catch them quite easily. As where I feel like I'm on a peg where I can catch feeding. But as I say, you've always got to try it just in case there's a carp lingering around or. It's ever so warm today. I reckon I could take my hoodie off. It's that warm. It's actually really nice compared to like last week, which is mad. Because last week sit there dithering, but this week the old catty's back out and we're loose feeding. Now I've just set that dobbing rig at 2.5 foot. It's probably like 4 foot across there, 3.5, 4 foot. So I've just set it 2.5 foot. Nice 4 by 10 F1 maggot. Just let it fall through the water. Don't really get many bites on the drop when you're dobbing, but I think it's key just to slow your hook bait down. There's a bite straight away. I think it's key to slow your hook bait down, just because it gives a fish chance to see it, especially because the water's quite clear still. But a little indication and bite then. That's exactly where I'm going to fish my pellets as well. Now I do feel like if it was a bit colder, and I feel like dobbing was going to be really, really important. I've not really set the right rig up for it today, if you know what I mean. What I need, hopefully, probably, when you catch a lot of fish on this peg, is you catch like flicking a rig like a whole top kit, just to the left, and that like sort of like bays out in this arm. But I just don't think it's going to be that important. But I've got to start on it. Got to give my maggots 20 or 30 minutes to build up as well. Now I remember fishing the winter festival and I drew this peg. I always seem to draw this peg, and I actually caught everything up and down on maggots at 30 metres, so that's going to be the line. If anything, we're going to try and win the match. Now I feel like target weight could be anything, could be 50, 60 pounds, or it could be 80 to 100 pounds, but I just feel like if the match is going to get won with like 80 to 100 pounds, I just feel like we're not in the correct area. Unless there's a lot of fish down here, but it's a lot of bites. That's a really busy day, but I think like 60, 70 pounds a really busy day, but a great day's fishing as well. So I'm thinking like 55 to 65 is a little target weight I'm going to try and set. Don't get me wrong, if you start to catch shallow, we do get bites on maggots quite early. So I'm not going to get giddy because Christian had a really good weight yesterday. Still, might be a little bit cooler just because one lake's fished a little bit better. But I feel like 55 to 65 is a quite achievable weight. That's the thing, I don't want to spend loads and loads of time. I will flick to the left again. The sun's quite bright. See that there, I'm probably, because I've got a short kit in as well, I'm probably like just a metre off where I need to be. Say Alan's dobbing next to me and he's not caught anything yet, so that's a good little sign, and just to see And the fish he did catch was small. So I probably want to be another metre closer to that bramble where it's cut back, as where like before. That's probably on the edge of the brambles where it was, but I'm not going to mess around and just think, right, I'm probably going to give this another flick about. Just work it back down, see if I can nick a fish, and then I'm thinking other than that, I might just pick up my pellet rig and start feeding and see how it goes. So I've got my loose fed line on the go. Just taking over that one. Just keeping a little bit of bait in there, like 10 maggots twice every now and again. Getting a nice little habit. Before we can get some bites, it's nice that it platters up quite nice to that far bank. It's not really shallow, it's probably like 4 foot deep, but I feel like that'd be perfect for pellets today. If them fish want to be in a bit shallow water, we've got it. Down here it's not really deep, as where if we, don't get me wrong, if I was in the bowl I'd be made up, because I feel like you can catch shallow down there, but I think for now I don't want to be wasting time trying to plan my match sort of thing. We did have a bite down this way, so I keep flicking it around there. As you can see, with this dobbin you have to be quite busy. You can't just plonk it in one place. Then we're on them red letter days where you do get matches where you just plonk it in and it just goes every single chuck, but you have to be quite busy in working it. But because I've had one sign, I'm not really confident that's the right thing to do. I feel like the fish will be on the move today and want to feed a little bit of bait, but either side of he's not started feeding yet, so it's sorry. So it's a bit hard to make a decision quite quickly, but like I said before, I'm not gonna mess around. We've got 2 lines on the go. It's going to be a really simple day. I feel like if I can get 2 lines on the go, not mess around with like a short line or an edge line, or don't feel like it's got that good yet. It's the first bit of mild weather we've had since God knows when. So I'm not going to get giddy and start chucking in short lines and edge lines and stuff. I just feel like, because it's pegged 4, 6, 8, if it's pegged a little bit different, you have a little bit more room, I think you could get away with it, but I don't think it's going to bother, so I think persevere this for now. Probably should have put a little bit longer dobbin rig on, but I just don't feel like it's going to be important. We only had that one indication and sign, so I said before, you notice I'm just still feeding, keep that maggot line fed. Probably fed 30 or 40 maggots through a pot just to get a bit of bait on the bottom, and then I'm just going to loose feed over the top. So if I go on my line, I can chop between fishing a pot and loose feeding if I need to, but that's a nice little flick there. See, no one's really done out yet. Alan's had the only fish caught, so it might be a little bit of a slow start, but That's the little plan. We've got 2 simple lines. We've got pellets across and maggots at 13. So I think what we'll do now is just, I'll probably flick this around for 5 minutes and then I'm going to have a go on pellets. So we'll come back when something else has changed and a little bit of update how it's going on and see how we're catching a few. For just over an hour now, and a little update. We had no fish dobbing, and I tapped some pellets in. I got a few signs and I caught 2 F1s on it, but it's quite difficult to see them flow, and I was getting the odd sign and an odd foul. I've had 2 foul hookers after that. Now I think, one thing, because it's bright sun, I think it's quite difficult to catch them. Now before this I caught, so after 20 minutes I dropped on my pellet line. Took about 10 minutes to get a bite, then I had a couple quite quick, and then I've not had anything since, so I dropped on my maggot line. There's a couple of signs there again now. Dropped on my maggot line. I denied, but no other signs, no indications, no bites on, so I left that. I'm going to keep flicking a bit of bait in now. I think if I go on it again, I think I might be a bit more gentle and just go in with a pot and just see if I can catch anything on the bottom that way. This is the problem at this sort of time. You can go a bit giddy. Just because the weather's warm doesn't mean the fish are feeding, so it's about reacting to what's going on in your peg. So I'm literally just sprinkling a few micros across, a little formal expander on the hook, and I'm just trying to get a couple of indications and signs and try and convert them into putting some fish in the net. Now what I can see, tap that bait, rattle a bit of bait in. What I can see, there's a couple of people in the bowl. They've got probably like 4 or 5, so we're not far behind. Like I said before, I think this sort of area, you're gonna have to expect a busy day. Can't just like sit there and persevere and think, oh, if I catch 10 3-pounders, that's a bite then, missed that. Too busy looking away. If I catch 3 10-pounders, no, 10 3-pounders, not 3 10-pounders, that'll do, but that's what we'd need. But they're not really down here, them sort of fish. It's just get some bites, get some fish, and I think tapping in a few pellets, it's good. I'm getting a few signs, so I'm just literally half filling the medium pot. My micros are nice and big. Now the wind's blowing up again up that top end, so there could be a lot of fish up there, but like I said before, we're not drawn up there, so I'm not really fussed about that. Just literally need to keep a little patch where I can just see my float there nice, so just keep it nice and tight now. Take your time, just because I feel like you see waves, you get a little bit giddy. Just got my float dotted to a pimple because of what I can see, just because the bites were pathetic, the ones I had. Next to nothing. Got a 4-inch hook length on. SFLO 1116. Get an indication there again. Got a quite heavy rig, 4x16 F1 pellet, so what I might have to do is just put a little bit more bristle out if I feel like I'm getting a few indications and striking at the wrong indications. So just because I'm sprinkling, I know on this lake, if you do catch them smaller stocky F1s, like 10 ounces to just under 1.5 pounds, they're quite erratic in how they feed. So what I mean by that is they come in your peg quite quick and they're quite aggressive. So you do get a lot of indications before you start hooking them. As where if you've got them big old chaps in your peg, I think they just pick your bait up dead easy. And they're just much easier to control sort of indications and bites. But with them smaller fish, see, that's a little indication there then. It's a good sign that we're getting a few bites on pellets, or signs. Sort of like, just because it's so far, it's sort of like a tick over. If I can catch, say, 15 fish on pellets and then the maggots comes good, it gives me a little buffer. Obviously where with maggots I can catch shallow, I can catch on the bottom. If I can catch loose feeding, I catch a lot quicker. As where this, it's only going to be, it's never going to be stupid, it's going to be maybe a fish, maybe 15 fish an hour max. As where you could catch that quite easily in 30 minutes on that maggot line if it comes good. But that's the thing, we've got a little bit of shallow water there. An indication there, so I'm just going to rattle a few pellets over my float. Just see if I can draw a fish down to the bottom. What I'm looking for as well is any signs. So before, if it rattles some pellets in quite quick and I get a bite straight away, because it is a little bit high pressure today and the sun's out, it's not ideal fishing conditions. It's nice to sit in, don't get me wrong, but it's not ideal fishing conditions, so it might take a little bit just to try and get some fish to go down to the bottom. Might just be lingering off the bottom. So that was an indication then. You just need to be a little bit more patient. Let some bites develop. Keep tapping a bit of bait in, keep trying to draw some fish to the bottom. Don't put too much bait in. Make it harder for them fish to preoccupy them, to try and pick my hook bait out. I just want to literally keep it nice and steady. Might take a little while just to get some feeding fish. That's the last of my pellets now. That's the beauty of having a bit positive rig with that 4x16. Literally I can just drop that rig in and it settles quite quick. Last thing I want to do is when I'm fishing with pellets like this is waiting for my rig to catch up. It's not like maggot fishing where you want it through the water. I just literally want to tap my bait in, drop to the bottom, and take a shot of that. I think I'm getting a few indications, but it's quite hard to see because of that light broken reed line. Take one off under the float. Same again, not feeding much, but I just need enough bait out there. It's not like, say if I was fishing a bit short, I could always come back and feed, but because it's such a long way, I want to be messing around all the time, but just took a bit of shot off just to show a little bit more bristle and see if I can just make sure I'm not striking at the wrong indications. So that's a little bit better now. It's the problem, if you've got it dotted to a pimple, I always struggle to, because everything it moves all the time, I just want to lift up. But with this now, if that sort of like moves in a different way than a sharp indication, I'm literally not going to have to strike as much. I think it's just about being impatient. Stop being impatient, just be a little bit more patient with it. But yeah, we've got 2 F1s on this line. It was nice steady away when we first caught them, but like I said before, I think that sun's got up a little bit. Obviously the water temperature is going to be on the rise. It has a bite straight away. That's foul up. Foul up that one. I'm having a bit of bother with that. I don't know whether to check my hook bait. Might be sprinkling's causing an issue. Shouldn't be too much of a problem, but if it does, I can move to the one with a bit bigger hole in. Just to try and get one hit down instead of sprinkling it all the time. Fishing the peg, just said before, I just need to be a bit patient and work it out. I don't need to catch loads and loads of fish at the minute. There's no one really catching. I think Jamie next to me's got a couple of fish on maggots across, and Alan's not caught anything since dobbing, so just tap a little bit to bait in again. Keep that loose fed line. Now if I start getting, there you are, that's a bite. Held that up, that one. So this is the problem, if I've got a few fish over there now, I need to change the way I need to feed. So maybe I'm going to have one more chuck on the old sprinklage. And then if that causes me a problem, like there's a fish off the bottom and causing a bit too much noise, which I think was happening at the minute, that was like a lift bite then. Yeah, there's a little stock here. They're the problem childs. Yeah, them ones. Hooked in the bottom as well. So what I'm thinking now, this is what I'm thinking, is have a little go sprinkling again. If I get an issue with it and problem, I need to change the way I'm feeding, so I need to either put one of them in with a bit bigger hole, put the initial hit of bait in, so I might have to work a little bit harder instead of being lazy and sprinkling it, or I can get another pot out of the bag and I can clump it in. So what I mean by clumping it is I can send it down in like a single clump, keep it a lot tighter, stop them silly indications because I'm not making so much noise, which I am doing with sprinkling it. So let's have a little look what goes on now. Like I said before, we need to put a fish in a net. At least we've got some bites to work with. This is what the beauty about it. So I'm making a bit of a noise there, sprinkling. So if I start to get stupid indications now and I miss a few bites, I feel like, right, I'm going to change the way I feed my pot. Because it's so far away across as well, what you'll find is fish feel safer further away from you, so they're going to be happy, they'll want to come off the bottom. Any given chance they can, and if there's enough fish there, they will come off the bottom, and that's where we've had a little bit of a problem there when we've gone back on it. Well, like I said before, you can fix that with a few little tricks with feeding. So I'm thinking, if I do get an issue and start foul looking at missing bites and stuff, then I will look to change, but I like to give it a chance. I don't want to just, one fish has done that, that's what I'm going to do. I like to give it a chance, see what goes on. Like this chuck now, we've had no indications and no signs, so maybe you just need to catch that daft fish, let everything settle down before you start going daft again. As well, we haven't been on it, so there might be a volume of fish there. As well, if you just start thinning them out and they're coming back into the area in little groups, then it's much easier to catch them. And a few signs and stuff there now. So it's just difficult to see my float. It's all broken up because of the reed line. But one way to tell if there's fish in your peg is literally just sprinkle over the top of your float and drop your float just back into the water and hold it still and just see what happens. You imagine them micros falling down. There you go, that's just straight away. You imagine the micros falling down. It's going to take like 12 to 15 seconds to hit the bottom. So that just triggered one to go back down. So this is what's going on for the minute. Typical stocky pellet fishing. It's a little bit hard work because it's 16 metres, but things you've got to do at the minute. We've got to just keep plodding away, putting some fish in the net. That's what I'm thinking. Get hold of him. Another little stocky F1. Keeps plodding away, putting some fish in the net and keep that loose feed line fed, and hopefully we can drop back on that and make our lives a bit easier for ourselves later on in the match. But so that's what's going on. In the minute we've got 4 fish now, so 2 on camera, which is good, just shows something. I'm having a little bit of an issue with the old sprinklage, but tried a few things. Put a bit more bristle shown to make sure we can see what's going on in the peg, and then once we see what's going on in the peg, just make decisions with our feeding. So we'll leave it at that, and we'll come back, hopefully. We've got a few more fish in the net. Now we're just coming up to just over halfway, and we've got 12 F1s in that net, and we've probably got like 4 or 5 eyed in the silvers net. So it's not going amazingly, but I'm not really sure what I need to do. With that pellet line I get so many indications, so what I'm thinking now is I've just picked up a 4x10 F1 maggot. I'm just going to tap some maggots in across. I think I can get to loose feed, I can lay my rig in a little bit more. It just feels a lot of fish off the bottom. I just generally think the conditions, that's why. I think if it's a little bit overcast and the sun wasn't as bright as it is, I think that pellets across could have been really, really good, but it's just really difficult. We get so many signs and indications, but I'm not getting many bites. But I just thought I'd have a little drop on my maggots. I'd not give up on this, and I feel like this is going to be the line where we're going to need to... I'm going to feed it just to come back. This was going to be the line which I need to catch me fish on, basically. I feel like that pellet line across was a little tick over line, so that's why I thought, right, I'll just give it one chance on maggots, and if I catch a few fish on it on the drop and stuff and I feel like it's worth doing, I can always loose feed an odd maggot over there. But I think to do any good in the match, I think this is where I'm going to have to catch most of my weight, is like on this maggot line, either on the bottom like we're doing now, just tapping a few maggots in and loose feeding the odd one, or it's in the mouth, or on with a shallow rig, which could happen later on. But I feel like this lake, I'm going to fish in for, I feel like £50 could be a really good weight today, and what I can see at the minute. Obviously I can't see like peg 14 and peg 16 and peg 19, which have been really, really good areas recently. So if you get beat by them, I don't think it's too much to worry about. But for our little area at the minute, we're getting an odd bite. Alan's catching an odd fish next to me, but we're not pulling away and putting loads and loads of fish in there. It's quite difficult to catch them. Like I said before, I think a bit of milder weather, you get a bit giddy thinking they're just going to eat everything you chuck at them, but it's not the case today. It's been quite difficult. But then I have rested this line, and if this is an... I was going to say, if that was an F1, I feel like... Ooh, jump my pole back. If that was an F1, I do feel that's a good sign, but... Let's put a single maggot on just to see if I can get some bites. I'm not going to pot it this time, I just feel like that might be a bit too negative. So just laying our rig out all the time. It's quite hard to see because of the sun at the minute. Keeping on an arc. Keeping an eye on that float as well. Any stabs on the way down, you can always pick up the shallow rig to see. Loose feed over the top, not many. 10 to 12 twice. Just literally try and get as tight as you can. That's what I'm thinking. If I can catch a couple F1s on this, just to tick me over. Keep putting some fish in the net. Like I said before, it's quite a lot of small fish peg, but it's a lot of bite sort of area. You have to put a lot of fish in, as where in that main sort of bowl you could easily have an hour on some bigger fish and put £40 in the net, but I feel like that's going to be a hard task to do. If we've probably got 13 fish, we've probably only got £20, not far off. So halfway through, £20. It's not been prolific, but I think that's just due to weather. So if you think about it, if I have a little bit better second half of the match, I could easily creep into that £50 mark. And I think that's going to be what you're fishing for today, £50–60. I did say 55 to 65, so I feel like £60 a big push, but you never know. If you start getting regular bites and the odd fish shallow, you can catch quite quickly. The sun's go down, it's a bit easier to see me float. But yeah, I've just changed a little bit what I'm doing. Not changed at all, just dropped on the maggots, just see what I can get on this. I feel like loose feeding's not really helping me. I can always put my pot back on. That's a bite of a dry. It's a small fish, that one. Put 2 maggots on this time. I'm looking up the bowl though, and no one's really catching a really steady one. There was an odd person catching a few early, but seemed to have stopped. So it might be the case the fish might just start to feed like last hour or so, but got to give a little update. That's on the settle again, that. So all of a sudden I'm thinking, right, this starts to happen. I feel like loose feeding's the right thing to do if I'm getting an odd bite on the drop. Just gotta hope there's enough fish there to start be able to pick my shallow rig up and try and catch some. That's on the settle sort again, so unless it's a small fish plucking at it, but at the minute I'll just take it because I feel like we're going to need to put some fish in the net. Keep it float nice and tight, don't let it move. See, that's a little indication there. Might be some small fish. But I think regular feeding, I think any bigger fish start to feed, I think it pushes them out anyway. Not too worried about that. If I hadn't had a bite at all on maggots on this line, I just was getting small fish, then I'd be quite worried, but because I have caught them there, and I haven't really had many nuisance fish problems, I'm not too fussed. But like if it was a scenario where I was not had any decent fish or any fish worth catching, I just had small fish, I feel like I might be in the wrong area or the fish aren't there. But at the minute I feel like that was just one off that we caught. Might be the case, you might catch a few fish there, they might fish or be in the cover on a far bank, you're not really sure. But just got to keep plugging away. That's where we're up to at the minute. I've got probably just under £20, so something like that. 13 fish. Probably looking for a target of like 30, 35 if I can. That might give me £40 and then some silvers, depending on what size we catch. We might catch some bigger fish, might catch an odd carp, you never know. But the sun's right in my eyes again. There you go, that's a nice little dink, that. That's what we want. So like I said before, it's been a bit patient, so let it develop. This is an F1, this is a good size. Just a little update of what's going on. I need to be a bit more patient and just keep putting fish in the net. Yeah, it's a little stocky, yeah. Yeah, so that's the sign we're looking out for. Double maggot on the drop. Nice little F1. Just under £1. So we'll keep plodding on with this. I might have a little look across if we're catching a few on maggots, but I think mainly to win the lake or try and win the match, I've got to catch on this line properly. So we'll leave it there and we'll come back and hopefully we're just getting one a chuck on this line. Now, sorry to interrupt you, but I hope you're enjoying the video. But don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It really helps any future videos. Click the notification bell so you can see any more videos like this on my channel. Now I'll let you get back to the match. We're just coming up to an hour left now. and things have started to improve. And what I did is I probably messed up here not doing this earlier, is you may hear a football and drum in the background, but Mordor FC have got some challenging away fans, I think. But what I should have done earlier is catch some maggots across this far bank, because it's been a really good line. I've been catching between 2 and 3 foot deep. Just had a little spell there. I've just caught 3 and 3 chucks, and I just get little bit runs of fish there, as where my 30-metre line and pellets across when I was on pellets just wasn't right. Whether it's because there's not enough fish here, or there's stockies, or the weather, I just feel like I've not got it right across there. Should have been a bit more aggressive with maggots and just put some fish in the net. But I've got 28 fish. Now I think one thing that's going to cost us today is Craig just went for a walk down just to see my dad, who's on peg 12, and he said him on 12, Dave on 14 and 16 are catching. Now the difference is they could catch a totally different stamp to me, so that's one thing that's out of my control really, is I can't control what the stamp's going to be like. That's where I've just got to keep putting fish in the net. Got words out there. Putting fish in the net and just see if I can tick along and try and push it, and hopefully my fish weigh a little bit more. But just feel like to catch an F1, it's quite difficult to catch one on the bottom. Just takes a while. I have to be really, really patient, and then get an odd stocky or smaller F1 across on this line. But it comes in spells. It's quite hard to be quite accurate with my feed there. So I have a little run of fish, and then next minute it's dead hard to catch them like I'm having now. So I think for the lake and sort of match scenario, I don't know what obviously weights they've got, but I feel they're going to have to catch next to nothing to beat me. And there have been good pegs up there recently, but not make that excuse. You might be all right. There's a problem with the other end of the lake. I think we're doing quite well in our area, and we're catching a few fish, but defo made a mistake not loose feeding her across on this far line earlier. Nice one now. I have to go a little bit deeper. That was at 2 foot, that one, but not had many signs there. Might try 2.5 foot, but I've set myself a little target now. Got an hour left. I want to try and catch 40 fish by the end of the match in that net. So I need another 11 fish, which I feel I could probably catch 5 or 6 on that bottom, that 30 metre. That's a good F1 actually. That's the ones we need. 11 of them would be flying. But I feel like I could catch 5 or 6 on that bottom rig, so I might have to swap and change between the two. Swap and change between the two. See if I can. I'm still feeding it. I'm not give up on it. I've not stopped feeding it, but I just feel like if I did this a bit earlier, I've had a lot of indications across there, and I was a bit reluctant to do it. So if we get me beat by like 10 or 15 pounds, I think that might be my fault. But I'm not being aggressive enough. I like to feed it up. This thing's better if I go straight out there. The last thing, you don't really catch him, but I'm just going to go 2.5 foot of deep on this one. Swinging next to the duck, trying to catch him. Nice light rig, 4x8. Flick it through the water. So keep that other line fed, because I could always drop on that, and if I catch shallower there or on the bottom, there could be a few bites to be had. The last thing I want to do is just focus on one line, especially at the minute where I haven't really had a line where I've just think, right, this is the line I need to fish now. I felt like I needed to do any good in the match. I feel like I needed to catch on that 30 metre line, and it's not been the best line. Now, whether it's me just looking up the lake or a bit of info, you think, oh, he's caught more and they've not caught as much as you think, but so we've got 29 fish, that'll probably be like 35 pound. Maybe a bit more, maybe a bit less, I'm not sure. They're a bit all over the place. Some are 10 ounce, some are over £1. You don't really know what's going on. But This line now has sort of like died. Had a good little run, obviously we turned the cameras on just to catch up. It's sort of like died now. So I'm thinking, do I just drop on that other maggot line, try and catch 4 or 5 fish? This is what I'm thinking, try and catch 4 or 5 fish in the next half an hour on the bottom, which I think is really achievable, especially because I've rested it, so there might be a few fish there, 4 or 5 fish there. That leaves me with 6 fish in half an hour, last half an hour. Now if I built this back up, I've literally caught 5 and as many puts in, really. So I could probably easily get that, but that's what I'm trying to think now, where the best place to try and plan the match to go. All I can do is set a target at 40 fish and just see where that gets me. I don't feel like, so before, you can't help but stamp your fish. If you have, maybe if you flick it in and we catch a few carp dobbing, that helps you massively, but I know what it's like down this end of the lake. We've not had many silvers. They're probably still a bit dormant still. From it being cool, so they've not started to feast. You haven't got like 10 or 15 pound, 20 pound of them to back you up. So like you say, it can be quite hard to compete, but all you got to do is just keep feeding that net. Always trying to get the most out of your peg and let's never settle in just for that. Just stick to this to the end and thinking, right, that's sort of like died, that line now. Not really getting many bites there. I've not had any bites at this sort of depth, not even a liner and a pluck. So I'm thinking, right, come back in a minute, keep priming this back up again, because obviously it's just gone over an hour left now, so keep priming that back up. That might give us a chance to catch some fish there. Drop on that maggot line, see what we can catch there. We might catch 5 or 6 really quick. We might catch shallow on that line, not sure, but I feel like that's the next line we need to drop on without wasting any time now, so I'm going to do that, because that before was just too quick to not catch them. So we'll have a little look on that other line, on the maggot line, pull that down. Well, I've been loose feeding that, so should be a few fish there hopefully. But before I come onto the other line for the shallow, I did have 4 or 5 decent stamp fish, like £1.5 on this. So hopefully they might start feeding now. You're getting to that sort of like last hour now. This is where it's really crucial to be in the areas where the fish want to be. That's why I think it's important that today, just because I felt like there's not been loads and loads of fish in this area from the past weekend, it seems the bowl's been the place to be. So I just feel like if you put a short line in, put an edge line in, you're just going to confuse yourself a little bit. As where I've just flitted between two swims today, trying to understand what to catch and how about going to catch him. I've worked quite hard to catch him as well, so I have to lay my rigging quite a lot. Still feeding quite regular, but this gives it like 20-25 minutes across there to build back up. That's a bite there. What's that? It's just off the bottom, so that just shows. What the hell is that noise? I don't know if you'll be able to hear that, but getting like rowdy at Weston Pools. Let's see where this is hooked, because it's sort of on the drop, that bite. So I'm just trying to plod along. This is the thing as well, I feel like some people might give up. It's in the mouth. Some people might give up if they think, obviously peg 12 to 16 has been a really, really good area of late, but you can't give up. You just don't know what they're catching. Catching your little area, make the most of your match. Now I feel like if you do get beat today, I feel like I've had a decent match. I've felt like I learnt a little bit, kept it nice and tidy. I've not done too many things and I'm not wasting much time. As well, my last match on Belv, I feel like I wasted a lot of time just not being brave enough. But on this today, I think I've like fished the lines, been quite positive. Just the only regret I do is just not loose feeding across there, but it's not really done that. I just feel like he's not accurate enough. I'd rather catch him at 13, but sometimes conditions and weather. There's a bite there. See, there's a few signs on that. I could easily catch another 4 or 5 on that. Conditions and weather, sorry, just change your match. That's the one beauty of match fishing. You think you want to fish like a certain way. I'd love to just fish this 30-metre line up and down, get loads and loads of bites, but that's not been the case today. I've had to put a bit of effort in, try to chase the fish around, go across to the far bank, tap some pellets in, get quite frustrated with it. Maybe just a little bit tad too early, that water just needs to warm up a little bit, but like I said before, I think if it was overcast and a bit lower pressure, I think it'd be really, really good, that pellets, but you've got to give it a chance. I think it's important as well, is the stamp of your fish in your peg. Like I said before, them stockies or smaller F1s in this lake are renowned for giving you loads and loads of indications. That's where a bigger fish just clunk, that's on. So it's important to know that and just not get frustrated with it sometimes, just to eke a few more out your peg. Therefore you have to be quite patient with this. It's not like bites every time you flick your rigging on the drop. Got double maggot on. Yeah, see that there? That's the classic scenario of what it's been like. It's dead patient. Just go flick under it. He's got one. That's what I mean. I've probably caught 2 in 5 minutes there. So that's more than quick enough to try and get to my 40 target. That's what I'm going to do. Little 40 target. Set yourself that. Just helps you. If you go over that, even better. But it feels a nice fish actually. Hopefully it might be a bit bigger. And this is what happened last time. Last time I went on the bottom, they're a little bit bigger. This is what you got to take. You need a few runs of these, but the beauty of this place, there's so many different fish you can catch. Might be a large. What's this now? Yeah, it's a little bit bigger. It's not a massive one, but we'll take him. On the side. And that's what I'm talking about now. When you're catching these fish, when you're catching along your loose feed line, how fast and efficient you can be. You imagine now I'm trying to bait up. Literally, I'm going to bait up, flip my rig out, and I'm putting pole together. Now you imagine, let's put sunglasses on. You imagine there now, if I was having to feed with a pot, I'd have to fill my pot up, make sure I don't spill any of it, really careful with it, make sure I don't spill it, then tap it in and lay my rig in as well. I'm laying my rig in now. My rig's fishing through the water and I'm loose feeding over the top. This is why it's important. Like last week you couldn't loose feed anything because the fishing was quite difficult, but this week water's warmed up a touch. I've gone for it. And it also gives you the chance of catching shallow, which is so important because, like I said before, that's really, really fast when it gets going. And Weston is renowned for catching fish off the bottom. They're not deep lakes, but there's no shells in it. Quite like a swimming pool, like I spoke about before in videos. So you can imagine them fish, just balls swimming around, coming in your peg. They're not going to sit against shells, they're just going to be moving around your peg. And you just got to attract them. Oh, that's a little ding then. Yeah, try and catch one more on camera for you. So before, I've not had many nuisance fish, like little perch or gudgeon, so I feel like it's still the right bait to fish maggots. So before, it's not about getting silly with my catapult and feeding lots and lots of bait all the time. I just want to be nice and patient. That little pouch I put in, make sure that if them fish is grubbing round, they find my up bait. That's a bite then. So I'll flick that in, I might feed again now. Need to feed that across line as well. Really important, just the old spray and pray job, but it's quite hard to feed it accurate, as we're there. You can feed your range float, get a bit of bait around your float. There's indication there. So you might have fish just come off the bottom. You might find that like late on. That's 45 minutes, that's what we need really, just some F1s to come off the bottom. Catch them a little bit quicker. But like I said before, with this sort of lake, when them silvers start to feed again, just need a few warmer days, and them silvers kick in. You can add sort of like 15-20 pounds onto your weights. So like that middle of the match where you're not catching much into F1 cart wise, you're ticking over like a pound skimmer or a 10-ounce hide or something. But so before, a few fish there, so it's a good sign. We can get a few bites. You're probably looking to, you could probably maybe look to end on this line, but I've got to have a look on that across line again because I know how good it was last time after I refed it, so I'll leave it at that. Just a little update, we've got 50 minutes left, so we might come back for the last 10 minutes or so, and then obviously a conclusion of how we got on. Right, so we're coming into the last 10 minutes now, and we've got to our 40 fish target. This is fish 41. Now, I've just had a few liners on this deck rig which have just gone back over my 30 metre line, so I've literally just picked up the shallow rig, put it 4 foot, flicked it in, and that's the first fish I caught straight away on it. So it's really important just to keep your eyes open for them liners and stuff. You could have had the last 10 minutes there where you just got a few line bites and not many fish, but what happened is we fished across, went across, and I'd literally, like I said, 5 and 5, I think I had 6 fish across and 6 chucks, and then we finned them out again, so it was like 15 minutes to go. So I literally come back, thought, right, we've exhausted that line, I've stopped feeding it now. I literally dropped in on the bottom on this line, on the maggots, caught one straight away, and then we've had a few indications and a few wobbles, and I thought, right, that's a telltale sign there's a few shallow fish in the peg. So I just picked up that 4 foot rig, I moved my shallow rig to 4 foot, flicked it in, and it went straight away. But we've got 41 fish, so we've had a good day's fishing. Like I said before, if you're down the other end, you're having 41 fish. There's a bite on the jaw. That's probably like a 3 foot, that one. This is the difference. You could have just missed a few bites on the bottom. Don't be scared to pick your rig up. This is why I feel like I've had a good match today. I feel like the only mistake, but I didn't have the bottle to do it, is loose feed that across line, because it's not something I've really done. And I thought, to be honest, that's a big F1 as well. I thought, to be honest, I'd have just caught him on tapping in pellets. The way I feel like the water temperature is on the rise, that was perfect, that one. I feel like the water temperature is on the rise. The fish were probably starting to mill around and feed. I felt like pellets could have been really good, but that's the gamble you take. I was probably a bit too slow and lethargic to have a go with that catty and maggots across. But like I said, what I was thinking before was, it's easy to say that now, but it's been hard to catch them. It's not been every single time I've caught 30 fish one after the other. I've caught after catching spells, so I've had to keep the 2 lines going, keep ticking around, keep moving, keep laying my rig in, keep feeding, keep working, and I've actually worked quite hard today now. Don't get me wrong, I've got 42 fish. Hopefully I can end on 43, 44, but you've just got to get the best out of your peg, and I feel like we have done in this match, other than should have just fed a bit earlier across and gone for it. But reasons why I didn't is because it's a bit awkward to feed, it's a bit all over the place, it's a bit of a gamble sort of thing, as where if the fish was just tapping in on pellets, I could have just caught them nice and clean, but obviously they wanted to be off the bottom. It's a certain type of fish, them little stocky fish, they're a bit of a pain in the nuisance to try and catch like that. So give it a little lift and drop, try and trigger one to eat it. One little trick here is to just hang your bait can be really good. So just leave it in the water. Like you're fishing on the bottom, that can be a really good way of catching them shallow. Feel like that loose feed falling through, they come darting through, picking it up, and if you're there static, you just grab it like that there, that's perfect. So now a nice little end here, some deep shallow. So that's the only little regret, I wish, but I've never done that before in this peg. I've always caught, to be honest, I've always caught on that maggot line really well where I'm fishing now. I've caught some hide and stuff, but then because of the weather the past few weeks, I think they've just not fed. So then we've just missed out on like 12 to 15 pound there. So say like this could have been the sort of match we've had. Say we catch 43. Say we catch 44 fish, say something like that. That maybe like 50 odd pound it might. Then another say 10 or 15 is sort of your upper limit I spoke about, but I did say 55 to 60, in fact 65. Hopefully we are going to weigh somewhere around 55, but I'm not really sure what them fish are going to weigh. They've not been small, they've just been that average size, but they give you so many liners and so many missed bites. It's so frustrating. You could have actually have a nightmare if you haven't experienced that before. Oh, there's a little bite then on the way down. Probably should have laid my rig back out, but I'll just flick it in. It's a nice slow falling rig, 4B8s. Just picking up like 4 or 5, 6 maggots. Just carry around your float. A little lift and drop. That little noise of him hitting the water can trigger one to snatch at your hook bait. And we got to be careful. I just don't get fixated. I don't mind coming back and whizzing back now. Having a quick drop on the bottom if I don't really get any signs quick. Got 4 minutes, so not really sure. If I catch one now I might just drop back on the bottom, but that's why I always find it a bit hard to make a decision. You've got like 4 minutes left. I feel like I've caught 2 fish really quick, 3 fish really quick on that shallow line, and you might have just finned them out. I might need to drop back on the bottom. Just have a little look. Lift and drop. Fire some around my float. And again, not too many. Don't want to feed loads. Problem, you can just clear your peg out quite quick with this shallow. I'm going to have a look on the bottom, I think. Let's just end it on the bottom. Oop. Keep doing that with my pole today. Double maggots, actually alright that one. Lay him out. That's the thing, once them silvers start to feed, this can be a deadly way of fishing. If there was some bigger F1s here, we might have been able to catch on pellets a bit easier across, or there's a little carp feeding or something, but I just wanted to try it. Maybe we should have just loose fed maggots across. And just fished 2 lines loose feeding maggots, but it is a bit awkward fishing 16 metres shallow on maggots. It doesn't group very nice. Yeah, that's a nice bite there. It doesn't group very nice. Take my time to try and get this one in. Now rig wise on this one, on my deck rig, I've just got 4x12 F1 maggot like I made in my rig station video. Probably that rig to be fair. And I got an SFL size 18 011, Just 2 maggots, nice and simple. Fishing gets a little bit better, I'll put a 16 on. I had a 16 on my pellet rig just because I can master pellet dead easy, but I could probably get away with a 16 on my maggot rig, but because I'm putting double maggot on, but just I'm putting singles on as well early on in the day, so just didn't want to have to swap hooks all the time. It doesn't make no difference really, unless you're fishing double maggot all the time on the bottom. There you go. So that's all out. So we've got 44 fish. I'm going to say we're going to have 58 pounds, something like that, but it's been an enjoyable match. It's been decent. I've learned a few things, maybe made a few mistakes, but that's how it goes. So let's get weighed in and then we'll catch up and let you know how we got on. Right, so we're all weighed in now. We weighed 46 pounds. So them fish didn't go as much as I thought they were going to. I've had 44 fish and then a couple of eyed, so they've gone a pound each basically. And what I thought was going to happen, we've had a few small fish. Now, one thing about my match is I feel like I was a little bit too slow to loose feed some maggots across, but it's not really the norm thing, and I've never really done it before, but it's one to have in the bank just to see if that is happening again, if I'm getting a liner and just an odd bite on pellets and the fish aren't going down, probably due to the bright sun and the air pressure. I feel like that's really important. Now, how we've done overall, we've actually come 4th overall. Belv was won with £53, that was Stephen Colback, famous Stephen Colback from Bradshaw Hall Fishery. He's had 53 off peg 18, and then Dave Evans on peg 14's had 56, and Neil Bignell has had 62 on peg 16. So, and my old fellow's just behind me, so he'd have been gunning for me to try and beat me. But it's been an interesting match. I'm probably going to need 10 to 16 fish to try and compete with them others up there, or 5 or 6 bigger ones. It's one of them things. I think stamper fish has not cost us, but in this match I feel like that's been really important. Stamper fish, but we've ticked over. We had a great day's fishing, you can't moan at that. 44 fish. One thing I want to say is, because there's not many silverfish feeding at the minute, maybe because due to the weather it's been so cold and they haven't started to kick back in yet, you're missing out there on 10 to 20 pounds. Now, like I said before, when you drop on that maggots early on, they're the sort of fish you catch, you just tick over, catching a few fish, and then like the last 2 hours you sort of have like I've had today. So maybe missing them fish early on in the match, but like I say, I'm not going to dwell on it too much. I feel like I've had a good match, I've enjoyed it, learnt a few things. Hopefully you have too, and don't forget, like and subscribe to the video, and I'll see you on the next one.